We can't talk about the most shocking picks in the 2023 NFL draft up to this point without talking about what the Lions did. We're going to start with Jahmyr Gibbs. And I'll tell you guys, I was live on YouTube doing my yearly draft stream over here. Day 2 and 3 will be on Twitch, by the way. Twitch.tv/Bengal. Link, as always, is down in the description. And I was going to the bathroom. I got back, and the pick had already been made, and I thought I was on an episode of Punk'd. I was looking for Ashton Kutcher. I'm like, what's going on? I know that's not a topical reference, but I could not believe that Jahmyr Gibbs was the pick at number 12. And it's not that I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a bad player, because I don't. I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think when you kind of factor it in from a team-building standpoint, you got to admit it was an odd decision. You didn't draft Bijan at 6. If you were going to take a running back and, Devin Witherspoon's off the board, your probable clear number 1 target, which obviously forced a trade down to 12, you might as well just take Bijan at 6. I think he's that much better than Jahmyr Gibbs as a prospect. You wonder about what Gibbs can kind of handle in terms of a workload. He's a little bit undersized, only about 200 pounds. How many touches is he going to be able to get a year? And I know that Brad Holmes says he's more than just a running back. But he also said that Jack Campbell's more than just an off-ball linebacker, which he's really not. He's really just an off-ball linebacker. We'll talk about him in a moment. So maybe that kind of knocks down what you think about Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of being more than just a running back. But I do think that holds more weight, because if you looked at Jahmyr Gibbs at Alabama, I think he is the complete package in terms of being the hybrid receiver running back. He led Alabama in receiving yards. I think he's someone that could be effective in the slot as well. If you want to mix him and Amon-Ra St. Brown around, but he's more running back than receiver. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's I don't want to say malpractice. It's just bizarre to take Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. I really think it's bizarre. Now, you did trade back from 6 to get him, which is the saving grace, I would say, is that you got the Cardinals number 34 overall and 168. Arizona also got number 81, though. It was just so surprising. You paid David Montgomery. He was the highest paid running back in the offseason. And I know DeAndre Swift is still in town. This pushes DeAndre Swift out. I'm not saying he's not going to make the roster, but you might see DeAndre Swift get traded for like a 7th round pick on day 3. I don't think they have any allegiance to DeAndre Swift whatsoever. I was blown away by seeing Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. I just think not only was it a little bit early for Gibbs, even though I really do like the player, I just think this also means that you passed up on Christian Gonzalez at number 12, who I think is the best corner in the entire draft, at least for playing on the boundary. I really like Christian Gonzalez, and they passed up on him at 12. I know Brad Holmes, the GM, apparently received texts from other GMs saying, oh man, if you didn't take him at 12, we were going to take him. So nice pick. But I don't think that makes the pick worth it. I mean, you look back, the same thing happened apparently with Jelani Tavai. I know different regime, but I don't think that makes it a good pick just because other teams were going to take him. I think there's a great quote. I think it's Sun Tzu in The Art of War. Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. Paraphrasing a bit, but something like that. And I'm not saying taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 is a mistake, because I think the player is good. But the value of taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 is objectively not good. So this was the biggest shock of the draft for me, and it's got to make this video for a reason. And on that same note, we'll talk about Jack Campbell. Again, just floored. Jahmyr Gibbs was one of those guys that, as we got closer to the draft, it was clear he was probably going to go in round 1, probably somewhere between 20 to 31. Obviously went a little bit higher than that. And I'm not so against taking running back in round 1. I'm really not, because you get the 5th-year option. You get them for their prime. But I was, again, shocked that Jack Campbell was the pick at number 18. And I think this one is, I can get behind it a little bit more, because it was a little bit later into the draft. He's the first linebacker off the board. You got your guy. Jack Campbell, I like. I think he's a good player. I thought maybe he would go at number 27 of Buffalo, was kind of the spot I thought was something I could really see happening, or I thought he could fall out of the first round. Linebackers are just another one of these less valuable positions nowadays, and you take a team that was like brilliantly building, and it seems like they've completely flipped that on their head here, and they've just gone, with the complete opposite direction, taking what are now commonly less valuable positions in running back and linebacker in the first round. And I like Jack Campbell. And if you're a Lions fan, you're going to like Jahmyr Gibbs. You're going to like Jack Campbell. They are good players. It was just surprising to see a linebacker go at 18. And because you got to factor in positional value to some degree when you're talking about a shocking pick. And this was just shocking. I was very surprised. I didn't really see anyone connect the dots to the Lions, to either Jahmyr Gibbs or Jack Campbell, especially not in the teens. Neither of them were top 30 visits for the Lions either. And if they were, you probably go, oh, Lions somewhere at the top of the second round might look to take one of these guys. Again, it was just very surprising. As was Kalijah Kancey to the Bucs at 19. Now, the positional value is not bad here. He's an interior defensive lineman. It's a valuable position. This was just another one where I was just surprised to see the Bucs go in that direction. You took Logan Hall at the top of the second round last year. I think it was a top 35 pick, top 40 pick at the worst. And that's kind of what you think Kalijah Kancey might be. Maybe Logan Hall is more of an edge than an interior defensive lineman, but he's like a hybrid inside-outside guy. And Kalijah Kancey, he's undersized. I can respect trying to get lightning with thunder now with Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea. It was just another team that you really thought would go in a different direction. You thought maybe offensive line. They needed offensive tackle. It's a big hole for them right now. And Anton Harrison was there if you wanted to go that direction. You get to keep Tristan Wirfs over on that right side, and you just plug and play pass protecting left tackle. They didn't do that. I'm not saying they made the right or wrong selection. Just really thought it was going to be an offensive lineman. And if not that, you thought maybe the Bucs would stop the fall of Will Levis, because right now your quarterback room consists of Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. So thought that maybe that was in play. If they didn't do that, you thought maybe a cornerback, kind of help out your depth. Didn't do that. You thought maybe a linebacker with Devin White asking for a trade and Levante David getting up there in age and only on a one-year deal. If this was going to be like a linebacker run back-to-back with Jack Campbell, although I think that would have been kind of surprising as well in a way. But Kalijah Kancey was just not something I, ever really considered for the Bucs. But he's going to be, a 3-4 attacking defensive end for him. He's undersized, but he offers a lot of juice on the interior. I definitely don't think it's a bad pick. I really not connecting the dots to this one. Kind of along those same lines, Will McDonald going at 15. I like Will McDonald. I really do. Really, really good athlete. And I think part of the reason he didn't get more hype is because of the system he played in. He was commonly in the 4-eye alignment, which is just not in a position to rush like clearly and cleanly off the edge, get on a runway, build up some speed, go one-on-one, mano-a-mano with the offensive tackle. You're on the inside shade. You're really not in a position to really get after the passer from that 4-eye alignment. So I think his numbers, if he would have put up, 12 sacks, it would be a different story. And people would be like, oh, this guy is the real deal. I like Will McDonald. It was just surprising to see him off the board with this pick. And it's not necessarily that he's a bad player, because I don't believe that's the case. It was just everything leading up to this draft, you thought Nolan Smith would go ahead of him. You thought that, or when I say you, the collective, thought Myles Murphy would probably go ahead of him. Lucas Van Ness ends up going only 2 spots ahead of him. But Will McDonald was like one of those fringe guys that, does he go to the Chiefs at 31? He's not really their typical type that Spags likes. He likes the bigger guys that can really set the edge. And Will McDonald's more juiced up, twitchy, bendy. Not really that guy. But you thought maybe that was a spot. Maybe the Saints. Maybe one of those teams at the back of the first round could consider taking an edge rusher. And he goes middle of the first at 15. It was just one of those names where it's like, wow, Will McDonald really just went top 15. And you have edge there already. I thought it was a possibility that they could go ahead and take an edge rusher, just with Bryce Huff's contract coming to an end. You do have Jermaine Johnson. Carl Lawson's a bit of a question mark. I don't hate getting an edge in there, but the entire draft process, you thought it was probably going to be an offensive tackle. Reports kind of circulate late that if they don't have the offensive tackle they like, they're going to go a different way. And I thought the different way was going to be JSN. Connect him back to Garrett Wilson, more weapons for Aaron Rodgers. No. Will McDonald at 15 just was not something I had on my bingo card. And then the last one we'll cover in this video is Emmanuel Forbes. Mississippi State corner that goes to the Washington Commanders. And 16, the surprise isn't him going in the teens necessarily. It's the fact that he goes even before Christian Gonzalez, which blew me away. Gonzo, as I mentioned, is my CB1 in this class, although Devin Witherspoon is right there. Kind of depends what you want. So I thought those guys would be 1 and 2. Could have flipped them in whichever order, right? And when the Lions got back to 12, I go, oh, this is easily Christian Gonzalez. Didn't happen. Patriots at 14, I'm like, this is Christian Gonzalez. They traded out of it. And then the Commanders got to 16, and I go, finally, the Christian Gonzalez run is over. He's not falling anymore. This is him. And they go with Emmanuel Forbes, who is good. He's a ball-hawking corner. He's a pick-six machine. You can't throw the ball underneath. He's going to be there. Tremendous closing speed. Tremendous just nose for the football. The big knock on him, he's 166 pounds. I mean, he is me, and he's an NFL player. I'm not an NFL player. It was staggering to see him go in at number 16 and ahead of Christian Gonzalez. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, something's got to be wrong with Christian Gonzalez. The fact that he's going to be available at 17 with not only a huge fall from where I thought he would go, which was like number 7. Maybe I could see him falling into the early teens. I thought 14 was going to be the absolute lowest he would go. And then Emmanuel Forbes gets picked ahead of him at 166 pounds. You know, we talk about guys like Devin Witherspoon and Denzel Ward being like, I can't believe they go that high at, a little over 180 pounds. That's just so light. The league, likes these corners to weigh a little bit more, be a little bit bigger. And Emmanuel Forbes is not that. He is probably the lightest player to ever be drafted in the first round. I can't say for certain that's a fact. Try to think of a 166-pound NFL player that goes top 16, top half of the first round. This year, maybe not officially top half with only 31 first-round picks, but I was just shocked that the NFL would do this. And maybe it was only the Commanders, but reports were that everybody loved Emmanuel Forbes, and I like the player. It's just, when you think the NFL is so set in their ways with, a guy like Brian Branch is going to fall out of the first round because the slot corner safety is not valuable, right? They're not going to take the undersized guy. They're going to take the big athletic guy. And Emmanuel Forbes is a great athlete, but he's not big. He seems not NFL caliber size. And to see him go, first half of the first round, I'll call it again, was just really surprising. I like the player. I was really surprised. Ahead of Christian Gonzalez too. So that's my list. There were a number of surprising picks. I'm not going to pick all of them, but these were the kind of the ones that stood out to me. Not saying they're bad necessarily, although I did just bring it up unprompted. You guys didn't ask me a question. I'm doing this alone. But yeah, not saying they're bad. That's like, I'm not saying you're ugly. No one asked. But yeah, just surprising. Let me know if you guys had any that really you weren't expecting in the chat or in the stream, I should say. Or in the comment section is what we do here. Excuse me. Let me know. A lot of them were really surprising. You could go with so many, but I had an idea on some of them that would end up coming to fruition, at least in terms of the team fit. These were not one of them. Were not any of them. But thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.